A new teacher named Haruaki was on his way to start at a different school. He loved the idea and felt excited during his journey. The city where the school was located was stunning, filled with many restaurants and shops, which impressed and delighted him. From a distance, he spotted the school and said, "That's got to be it." It looked beautiful. He checked his map and confirmed, "Yes, this is the right place." Haruaki remembered his time at a high school a year ago. It was his first day there. He was watching how things worked. He was very timid. Once a student threatened him, making him nervous. After only half an hour, he ran away and couldn't finish the day. In fact, he stayed home for a whole year, avoiding going out. He thought this was terrible and considered himself quite cowardly. Still, he decided to go to the new school, telling himself, "I will be a good teacher. This school looks great, and their uniforms are respectable." He was full of enthusiasm on his first day at the new school. Determined to become a better teacher, he was ready to face his challenges bravely. When he arrived, the high school students saw the principal standing behind him. The principal said, "Welcome. You must be the new teacher, Haruaki." Haruaki replied, "You are the principal. How are you?" The principal answered, "I'm grateful you came. I invited you to teach here." Haruaki responded, "I should be the one thanking you for the invitation." The principal continued, "Your family has helped me a lot before, and I'm thankful to them. I hope you'll stay to teach our students." Haruaki said, "I can't handle all these kind words." The principal then led Haruaki to his classroom and said, "Come on, hero. The students are waiting for you." Haruaki replied, "Don't worry. I'll do my best. I'll be a very good teacher." He felt extremely excited. When he entered the classroom, he saw that the students looked like monsters with supernatural powers, called yokai. He exclaimed, "What is this? Are all of you yokai?" Quickly, he shut the door and said, "I think I've entered the wrong room. I'm sorry." The principal noticed Haruaki's surprised look as he quickly left. He asked, "Do you understand what's happening in the classroom?" Haruaki replied, "No. What's going on?" The principal said, "Nothing major. The students are just arguing." Haruaki was shocked. "What are they arguing about? I saw yokai everywhere. What is this place?" The principal explained, "This is a special school where all yokai students from across Japan come to learn. It's designed especially for them." He continued, "You are the first human teacher to work with us here." Suddenly, Haruaki started running, trying to escape, but the principal appeared everywhere, saying, "I'm a yokai too. And that's normal. We handle it naturally." Then he grabbed Haruaki's hand and said, "Come on, go back to your class." Haruaki shouted, "No, let me go!" Suddenly, something star-shaped with supernatural powers appeared from the principal's hand, but Haruaki didn't recognize it. He backed away so much that the principal got hurt. The principal then said, "Haruaki, I wasn't meant to be a teacher anyway. I'll work in a bakery." He gently pushed Haruaki back into the classroom with his cane. Inside, Haruaki was terrified and couldn't speak. He ran and hid under a desk, scared out of his mind. The students watched him, wondering, where did he go? 40 minutes passed without Haruaki coming out. The students started talking among themselves. Is he dead, or is he going to come out? Suddenly, a student named Sano-ko stood up and approached him. "What's wrong with you, sir?" he asked. Haruaki replied, "I'm human." Sano-ko said, "You're never going to come out from under the desk, are you?" Haruaki responded, "I was just about to." But Haruaki got stuck under the desk. So Sano-ko said, "Come on, give me your hand. Get out." When he grabbed Haruaki's hand, the teacher's clothes suddenly tore off. At that moment, the girls in the class started screaming, "What's this? How did you do that?" Suddenly, a short student in the class asked Sano-ko, "What did you do? How long have you been using your power?" Sano-ko replied, "I didn't mean to. I was just a little upset." The teacher, feeling embarrassed, thought to himself, "What's going on? This is the first time something like this has happened to me. Someone greets me, and my clothes tear so easily." The principal entered the room and said, "You need to understand, there's no reason to be afraid of your students." Haruaki responded, "I'm not afraid because they're students. I'm afraid because they're transforming yokai." The principal reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, I'll give you a book about the Transformers so you can learn more about them, and another book on the school uniform." Haruaki liked the principal so much that he asked, "This book is for me?" The principal smiled and replied, "Yes, it's for you. I believe in you." He added, "If you do well, I'll give you a special uniform of your own." Feeling grateful, Haruaki returned to the classroom, his eyes filled with excitement and confidence. He introduced himself to the students, saying, "I'm Haruaki," then wrote his name on the board and told them, "And I'm human too." When the students learned this, they all said, "How can you be human and still be here with us?" Sano-ko then asked, "Are you going to cry now? Or what?" Haruaki thought, this student is not going to be easy, but he kept speaking normally. He began taking attendance, calling each student one by one, trying to learn more about their powers. When he called Sano-ko, the student didn't respond, making Haruaki suspicious. He thought, I'm sure he'll do something, but decided to ignore it and carried on with the class as usual. Afterward, he prepared to give his first lesson, introducing the students to some important things about the school. Haruaki called on the next student, the shortest one in class, and said, "This student is absent today because he's at his sister's wedding and hasn't arrived yet." Haruaki replied, "Thank you for letting me know." Then he asked, "What's your name?" Just then, the absent student walked into the room and said, "Hey everyone, I'm back, and I've brought some wonderful things for you." He added, "I've missed you all so much." Haruaki, confused, asked, "What's going on? Who are you?" The student introduced himself. Upon finding out that Haruaki was human, the student aggressively attacked him, hitting him hard and knocking him to the ground. The short student stepped in and said, "I forgot to mention something. I don't like humans because my brother, a yokai, married a human. Ever since then, I've hated all humans." Haruaki stood there in shock, thinking, is this student going to take his anger out on me? Why doesn't he just confront his sister instead? I didn't do anything to him. As he pondered this, the angry student, named Heiju, who had the power to control mud, began attacking him with his abilities. Haruaki tried to defend himself, but the situation only worsened. Heiju shouted, "I don't want to hear your voice again, get out of here." Then, using his magic, Heiju trapped Haruaki in a large pit of mud. From inside the pit, Haruaki protested, "I didn't do anything to you. I haven't even come near you." But Heiju responded, "We yokai always enjoy hitting humans who are with us. If you don't like it, you can go back to your school, where everyone is like you." Suddenly, while lying on the ground, Haruaki said, "I can't go back there. I was there before, and I wasn't happy at all. I faced so many problems. Even elementary students would tease me. I was weak, and no one treated me well. I didn't have a single friend since I came into this world." Haruaki continued, "And despite everything, I became a teacher. Maybe I can make something of myself and actually talk to the students." He looked at them and said, "I'm sorry for being human, but that's something I can't change." As he looked around, he noticed the students were starting to show some sympathy. One of them said, "Okay, I was just joking." But another voice interrupted, "No, you weren't joking." Haruaki responded, "You're exaggerating. You were serious." Then he said, "Let's continue with the roll call." He called out a girl's name, but no one answered. The short student explained, "She hasn't been here since the beginning of winter." Haruaki asked, "How is that possible? We have a class photo session tomorrow and everyone needs to be there. I'll have to go talk to her and convince her to come back." Heiju commented, "If she finds out you're coming, she'll never return." Determined, Haruaki set off for the girls' dormitory, where the absent student was staying, bringing Sanoko and the short student with him. The short student warned, "Be careful, you're still unknown in the girls' dormitory, and they might not treat you well." Haruaki sighed and asked, "Why does it feel like everyone here dislikes me? Why do I keep running into problems?" The student replied, "That's just how things work around here. But don't worry, I'm on alert. We brought Sanoko with us, and we're ready." Heiju added, "Stay quiet. Nothing will happen. I'm going to bring back the student for tomorrow's photo shoot." "That girl," Haruaki chimed in. "Among the transformed ones, some are supposed to have better luck than others. If I manage to bring her back, maybe my luck will turn around too." Sanoko, unimpressed, said, "You don't actually believe that, do you?" Haruaki quickly responded, "No, of course not. There's nothing like that. In fact, I'll check the book I have and see what it says about her." He then turned to the short student and asked, "Hey, what does the book say about me?" The student replied, "Let's open it and find out." They opened the book together, and Haruaki read, "Short transformable ones can only transform if you place a paper on their head or put nuts on their heads." Haruaki, baffled, asked, "Is this for real?" The student laughed and replied, "Of course not. I can't use my powers like that. This book is really old. Look at the date. It's 200 years old. We're in the 21st century now." Haruaki continued flipping through the book and asked Sanoko, "I didn't find anything written about you or about others like you who transform." But Sanoko remained silent. Haruaki turned away, and the short student remarked, "Look, not only is this book old, but it's also incomplete." They left the book aside and went to the house of the absent girl. They knocked on the door, but she refused to open it. Haruaki asked, "What do we do now?" The short student grinned and said, "I have an idea. I'll place a paper on my head to transform, then I'll get inside." True to his word, he transformed into smoke and slipped through the keyhole. Once inside, Haruaki voiced his concerns. "What we're doing might be wrong." Sanoko agreed, "Yes, this really feels wrong." Inside the house, the short student discovered that the girl had placed a spell on the door. Suddenly, 300 magical strikes shot out, forcing him to retreat and return outside. Then, a note slid out from under the door, and after opening it, the girl threatened them, demanding they leave her alone or face consequences. Angered, Haruaki muttered, "No one respects me, no matter where I go. But whatever, this isn't the first time." Suddenly, the short student received a message from a classmate informing them that this girl had posted online, announcing that a human teacher was trying to break into her house. Annoyed, Sanoko said, "What's this? They're still kids. Every time something happens, they go online and post about it." They called out to her, but she only responded, "Leave me alone." Haruaki placed his hand on the door and shouted, "Open up!" Suddenly, a star appeared from his hand, and the door flew open. The short student asked, "What's going on? Is there a strong wind or something?" The teacher replied, "I don't know. I guess I'm just lucky." Haruaki entered the house, calling for the girl. "Are you here? Where are you?" When he found her, she snapped, "Shut up! I'm busy saving the world from danger. Can't you see?" Haruaki asked, "Sorry, but what are you doing?" The girl responded, "Yes, I'm playing. But this game is really important." She then asked, "How did you all get in here? And how dare you enter my room?" Sanoko questioned, "How long are you going to keep hiding from us like this?" She didn't reply, but the short student noticed, "Wait, isn't that the game you got from class?" The girl answered, "Yes, it's the game I started. It was so good that I finished it in a day. Then Heiju promised to bring me the second part, and since then, I've been hooked and can't leave the screen." Everyone collectively responded, "What kind of boring life is this? Are you really spending all your time on games, just sitting here?" Haruaki added, "I thought something serious was keeping you from school, and here I am, pleading with you to come back. I promise you'll find things at school that are more enjoyable than games. You can pause the game and come back to it later. It's not going anywhere." The girl replied, "But you're on your knees, wiping your face in my underwear." Embarrassed, Haruaki quickly apologized. "What? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that." As he tried to explain, she interrupted, "You don't care about the clothes." She then kicked him and got up from her chair. The short student chimed in, "With that attitude, you'll definitely come back to school." Surprisingly, the girl responded, "Yes, this man has made me think about returning." The short student encouraged her, "Come back. This teacher is really nice and hasn't done anything wrong." Haruaki, "That's not exactly a compliment." Then he said to the girl, "You can play games when you're older, but you won't have the chance to go back to school once you grow up. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I promise I'll get you the special sailor school uniform, and your black hair will look beautiful in it." The next day, as Haruaki headed to the classroom, he wondered, will she come or not? I really want her to come. Meanwhile, some yokai teachers were speaking to the school principal, asking, "Principal, who is this human? How did you even hire him? Is it because of his ancient family?" The principal replied, 1,000 years ago, yokai and humans coexisted everywhere. There was an ancient hero and warrior who punished any yokai who did wrong. But now, in today's world, humans are everywhere, and we can't reveal ourselves as we did in the past. This man comes from a family that inherited that power, and Haruaki, the second son of that family, is here with us. One of the teachers interrupted, "Actually, he has problems dealing with humans and feels weak around them. But to us, he is very strong." He added, "Having him here means we are safe, and it's good for the students as well." At the same time, Sanoko, who was with them, said, "I learned about the new teacher's story. I saw his power when he opened the door for that girl, and I know he's been hiding it." Then Sanoko noticed the book about the girl's school uniform, and curiously asked, "What's this?" Haruaki quickly replied, "That book was brought to me by mistake, and I accidentally brought it here." The short student reassured him, "Don't worry, we won't tell anyone." Meanwhile, the student Haruaki had been waiting for finally arrived. As she tried to pass by, she said, "Why are you blocking the way?" Haruaki smiled and responded, "It's great that you came. The sailor uniform looks nice on you." He opened the door for her, allowing her to enter the classroom. Noticing something unusual, he commented, "Wait, you're wearing pants under that uniform. That's against school rules." She shot back, "What are you talking about?" Sanoko chimed in, teasing, "He really loves the girls' school uniforms." Haruaki, embarrassed, retorted, "Didn't you say you wouldn't tell anyone? Now the girls probably see me in a negative light. I feel like trash." Sanoko, half-joking, replied, "Yeah, you are trash. Why do you treat me like this?" The teacher sighed and said, "I absorb my energy from people's frustration." At that moment, Heiju approached and said, "Hey teacher, I'm sorry for what I did on the first day. I didn't realize how strong you were." He added, "And did you manage to bring that student back?" Smiling, the teacher replied, "Sweetheart." Then everyone gathered together for the class group photo. After the photo session, Haruaki walked with Sanoko, saying, "I'm so happy. So many wonderful things happened today." Sanoko responded, "Yes, you did great things and worked hard for them." Haruaki, surprised, said, "What? I can't believe what I'm hearing. Are you actually thanking me?" Sanoko confirmed, "Yes, you heard me right." Just then, in a burst of excitement, a water hose nearby burst, and both Haruaki and Sanoko slipped and fell to the ground. The student came over and asked, "Were you doing all this to bring me good luck?" "Well, whenever I wear red, my luck turns terribly bad." She mentioned that it was written in the yokai book. She then added, "And now you're stuck between two unlucky people." Sanoko, standing behind her, asked, "Who are the other two people?" Without warning, Sanoko decided to perform a suplex on Haruaki, causing him to fall to the ground again. Haruaki said, "I've become a teacher at the school for mutants, and I communicate with them in Japanese as usual." One day, while he was climbing something, he suddenly heard a cracking sound. He thought to himself, what just broke? A teacher was following him with a camera and told him, "What's broken can be fixed." Later, he went with the teachers to a restaurant, where he invited them for a delicious meal. Haruaki said, "The food looks really tasty." The teachers responded, "We're happy to be together. We want to get to know each other better since we don't know what happened before." One of them said, "My name is Mano. I'm a teacher in the classroom next to yours." Haruaki added, "There's also another teacher with us named Hatanaka, who's responsible for attendance issues." Then Haruaki said, "It's a pleasure to meet you." As they were talking, Hatanaka started preventing Mano from drinking alcohol. Each time Mano poured a glass, Hatanaka took it away. Haruaki asked, "Why are you doing that?" Hatanaka replied, "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." He then added, "We have school tomorrow morning, so we need to get a good night's sleep. No one should pass out from drinking." Haruaki responded, "Isn't tomorrow the sports day?" Hatanaka replied, "Yes. But Mano said it's going to be a very exhausting day." Haruaki asked, "Why?" Mano answered, "Because we're also taking the students to the doctor for checkups." Mano confirmed, "Remember, today is tough, and every year, one of the students gets sick and ends up in the hospital due to the strain." Haruaki said, "I'm already tired." The next day, while talking to the students in class, Haruaki said, "We must listen carefully to what the teachers say." The students began asking questions about themselves, and one asked, "What if I gain weight, or if I'm tired, or if I don't grow taller?" The short student then said, "What if I'm not a mutant?" Haruaki responded, "I can't help you with that, but I'm sure you're a mutant." Afterward, he left the classroom and found Mr. Hatanaka waiting for him. Hatanaka said, "Haruaki, I need your help." Haruaki replied, "Sure, go ahead." Hatanaka said, "I need you for the eye exams. You need to go to that room over there and call this number." Then he shouted, "Call this number and you'll understand." Haruaki took the paper and rushed toward the room. Hatanaka yelled, "Don't run in the school, walk quickly." Haruaki replied, Okay, I will." He went there and began overseeing the students' eye exams with the doctor on the phone. The doctor said, "This student's vision is 130. Haruaki asked, "I don't know if that's a good result for mutants." The student, upset, said, "I dropped half a point from last year." Haruaki asked him, "Will that half a point affect your life? Will you still be able to live after that?" After the exams, Haruaki returned to Hatanaka and said, "The eye exams are finished." Suddenly, Hatanaka yelled at him, "You're late. Take the short student and go to the nurse's room quickly." Haruaki replied, "Got it." Despite Hatanaka's warnings, Haruaki didn't run but walked quickly to the nurse's room for further checkups. The nurse asked them to enter a small cage for their examination and to ensure their well-being. As soon as they stepped inside, they instantly transformed into small animals. Suddenly, the cage door closed on them, and one of them said, "This cage is enchanted, and you won't be able to get out." A voice from inside said, "Sorry, but we have a doctor from abroad." At that moment, the doctor appeared and told them, "We're just going to give you some shots to take care of your health." When they saw the needles, they started screaming, "No, we don't want this. This is punishment, not treatment." But the doctor disagreed. "Even this animal here will get a shot." He added, "All mutants must get vaccinated." Then, Teacher Hatanaka entered, saying, "Wait, Mano, you're getting a shot too." While they were in the cage, the mutants tried to escape, but they couldn't. Mano said, "Take them, doctor. They're in your hands now." One of the mutants replied, "Fine, Mano, but you still owe me money. Give me my money back." The doctor responded, "Well, I'm busy with surgeries. I can't handle the injections right now." Haruaki grabbed the doctor to help him give the shots, trying to calm everyone down, saying, "Don't worry, you won't feel a thing." One of the students said, "Okay, teacher, talk to me about something so I don't notice it." Haruaki replied, "All right, I'll talk to you about," and he began chatting to distract them. As the doctor approached to give the shot, the mutant kept running away, causing the needle to fly and land directly in Haruaki's head, right in the middle of his brain. Haruaki screamed loudly, quickly bandaging his head from the injury, and said, "Doctor, I'm human, not a mutant. Am I going to be okay?" The doctor reassured him, "Of course, don't worry. I've tested this on some humans before." Haruaki asked in shock, "What do you mean?" The doctor replied, "I mean, I've conducted experiments on a human being, and 2 days ago, I created a new, amazing injection. You can try it." But Haruaki quickly responded, "No, absolutely not." Then he looked at the crying students and said, "All right, we're done." But Mano interrupted, "No, there's one last thing. We still need to measure the students' heights." They moved toward one of the tall mutants, and Mano said, "Mutants of this kind are the ones who built the lakes and mountains." Haruaki asked, "Do I have to climb him to measure his height?" Mano replied, "Yes, of course. You're setting an example for the students to follow what you do." Haruaki retorted, "Then why don't you or Hatanaka climb?" Mano said, "No, leave him out of it. He's not capable after the shot." Frustrated, Haruaki said, "No, I don't want to climb. Let's bet on who's going to do it." Mano challenged him, but Haruaki lost the bet. As he started climbing, he muttered to himself, "Why did I even bet like that? I'm such an idiot. This happens every time." When he reached the student, he said, "Why do I keep losing these bets?" The student replied, "I don't know. Why do you bet in the first place?" Mano interrupted, "Stop complaining and climb higher." Haruaki said, "I'm now at the student's ear." The student responded, "Really? Well, be careful." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over him, shaking his balance and causing him to wobble in the air. At that moment, Haruaki's school book flew out of his hands and he shouted, "What is this? My book flew away." Suddenly, he let go of the rope he was holding onto and began to fall, realizing in that moment that if he hit the ground, it would be dangerous. He screamed, "I don't want to die like this. I want to die wearing my school uniform." Just then, he saw Sanko in the distance, coming to his rescue. Sanko said to him, "Die? Don't talk about dying right now." Haruaki replied, "Thank you for saving me." Then he asked, "What are you doing here?" Sanko responded, "I don't like this checkup day, but I do enjoy climbing his head." After they climbed together, Sanko said, "He's 130 meters tall." The student was thrilled and exclaimed, "Did you know? I've surpassed the Statue of Liberty back home." But Mono told Haruaki, "Come down now. That's enough. I'm going to check on the other students." Haruaki asked, "How am I supposed to get down now? Why do I have to climb down alone?" Then he looked at Sanko and said, "You can carry me down on your back." Sanko replied, "All right, but you're going to make me die laughing." Haruaki said, "So if you were my friend now, you could easily help me down." Sanko responded, "No, I have no way of getting down from here." Suddenly, while trying to lower himself on his shoulder, the tall student felt a sneeze coming, and indeed, he sneezed, sending them flying far away. He then said, "I'm sorry, sir. I sneezed suddenly," but no one was there to reply. Surprised, he wondered, "What's going on? Did they get down that quickly?" Meanwhile, Mono came walking with Hatanaka saying, "Thank goodness. The day is finally over." Then the short child, Sanko's friend, approached the teacher and asked, "Where's Sanko?" The short child asked again, "Where did he go?" The other replied, "I don't know." Then Hatanaka asked, "And where's Haruaki?" Sanko had also found them in the principal's office. Because of the tall student's sneeze, they had been transported there. Sanko said to Haruaki, "What's happening to me?" Haruaki asked, "What do you mean?" Sanko replied, "Since you came, I feel tired, and bad things keep happening to me. Stay away from me." Haruaki responded, "You're the one who transformed, not me. Did you forget?" At that moment, the principal walked in saying, "Be quiet, all of you." Then Haruaki said, "I'm sorry, principal. I'll pay for the broken glass." The principal replied, "I understand what happened, but the glass is very expensive. Your salary won't cover it." The principal added, "But I'll have you do something else instead of paying for the glass." Haruaki asked, "What do you mean by something else?" The principal instructed him to take the students and clean the school's swimming pool. The tall student who had caused the accident said, "I'm sorry, it's all because of me." Haruaki responded, "Don't worry about it, just try to stay tall." While some students didn't want to go, others were excited to swim in the water. Haruaki asked, "Does anyone know if there's a swimming pool at the school?" They replied, "We used to go to the ocean every year, but we're not going this year because it's gotten too hot." They continued, "Summer came early, and it's caused some strange things to appear in the sea. A group of shapeshifters had also appeared in the ocean, where they lived." Haruaki asked, "Does that mean there are no jellyfish, honestly?" When they reached the swimming pool, they said, "We've arrived. This is the pool, right?" One of them replied, "Here it is." As soon as they saw the pool, they exclaimed, "What is this? What a mess. This isn't a pool." One of the students said, "This doesn't just need cleaning, it needs to be blown up." Haruaki responded, "No, the water here is just really dirty. It's stagnant water." Then he added, "No, it's not polluted, but there are unnatural things in it." The short student said, "Yeah, this definitely looks like a graveyard or the underworld." Haruaki started playing with a stick along with Sanko and said, "At least let's try to clean it." Sanko replied, "If whatever is in here comes out, it will cause destruction to nature." At that moment, Haruaki mocked and responded, "Nature will recover." Suddenly, a student named Higeta came running with excitement and said, "I'll start cleaning from over there." He ran toward the other side. Sanko warned him, "Be careful, there's water around the pool. You might slip." But before he could finish his sentence, Higeta's feet slipped, and he fell into the pool, starting to disappear. His friends screamed, "Help him! He's drowning!" Another shouted, "It's over! It looks like he's already poisoned! He's dead!" But Sanko calmly said, "No, it's actually just mud. He'll dissolve in the water." Suddenly, Higeta emerged from the water, gasping for air, and said, "That was a really terrible experience." But Higeta emerged with a completely new look, and his behavior had changed too. He said, "Oh my god, I almost died. It's good that I'm still alive." Everyone spoke in unison. "What is this? How did you end up like this?" One of the students asked. "I think everything about him has changed, even his abilities and behavior. He's become a completely different person." Sanko immediately replied, "What is this nonsense? He turned blonde in such a gross way." Then one of his classmates threw Higeta back into the water, saying, "We'll say he died. Got it? And we'll also say he was poisoned and fell into the toxic water." The short student started cleaning the water with a stick, and suddenly a small creature appeared from the water. It tried to pull him in, calling, "Come! Come!" The students noticed that these creatures liked causing trouble for anyone nearby. One of them said, "What's going on? Did you forget our classmate is being dragged right now? We need to do something." Everyone rushed toward Higeta, trying to save him from the creatures. But the creatures were quite strong. One student, in a panic, said, "This is it! I'm done for! I'll die, or I'll turn into a tall, handsome man like the one before me. At that moment, Sanko stepped in and struck the creatures. And with the first blow, the creatures were forced back into the depths of the water. He saved his friend, saying, "Are you okay, mommy?" Higeta responded, "Yes, you're my best friend." He hugged him tightly, crying, "I was going to die, Sanko." Sanko reassured him, saying, "Don't worry. I won't let anything happen to you. I won't let you become a tall, handsome man. I'll keep you just the way you are, because you're perfect like this." At that moment, a monster emerged from the swimming pool and said to them, "Do you think you've defeated us, you pack of dogs?" Sanko retorted, "Who are you mocking? Just remember, you already got beaten up." The monster replied, "Sorry, but we were just trying to protect our boss, who's still here." Suddenly, the water began to stir in a terrifying way, and a giant fish emerged from it, with a human-like face. The large fish started speaking, saying, "How are you, shapeshifters? You're worthless. I am the biggest among you, and you won't succeed in cleaning this pool. This place is sacred to us, and we won't let any of you lay a hand on anything here." At that moment, one of the shapeshifters turned into a cat and said to the fish, "All right then, come here so I can show you what this cat will do to you. I'll show you my strength because your words aren't cutting it." The cat lunged at the fish, but it was too small, and the fish swallowed it whole. Everyone screamed, "No, Tamo! The fish swallowed Tamo!" The fish said to them, "Don't worry, I'll fit everyone inside my stomach." Then it attacked them. Haruaki shouted, "What are we going to do now?" Sanko answered, "She's hungry, right?" He stood in front of the fish with one hand raised. The tall boy transformed into a stronger form and successfully grabbed hold of the fish. Suddenly, the fish cried out, "What is this? I'm in trouble." It then looked at the other fish and said, "I won't be able to do anything like this. We're in a mess." At that moment, the smaller fish said, "All right, just look." The large fish added, "What do you want to do? If you want to eat us or torture us, go ahead. Do as you please." Then it turned to the tall boy and said, "If you want to eat me, go ahead." He replied, "I don't think I'd like your taste." As the short boy climbed toward the fish, he said, "Why don't you go live in an aquarium? You'll get your 3 meals a day, sleep and wake up whenever you want, and no one will bother you. You might even find another fish like you to marry." The large fish looked a bit sad, but after a moment it agreed, saying, "All right, I agree." Haruaki exclaimed, "No, you have no personality at all." Then Haruaki said, "Okay, let's start cleaning the pool." He turned to the tall boy and asked, "Why have you been standing in the pool for so long? Are you okay, or do you feel something?" The tall boy replied, "No, I'm fine." But then he added, "But the water is really hot." Suddenly he slipped and fell, causing a huge mess in the pool. At that point, the teacher returned to the principal, holding a small kiddie pool, asking, "What do you think of this? It's nicer than the big pool." The principal replied, "No, of course not, you fool. I'll have to deduct that from my salary." Haruaki felt down, saying, "So, we won't see any swimming for a whole year." In the end, they decided to take the large fish to its new home, giving it a chance at a happier life. Haruki was sitting with Manu at school when Manu informed him, "I'll have you attend my yokai classes. This will help you gain valuable experience and get to know the students better." Haruki, clearly impressed, asked, "Can I join you?" Manu replied, "I'll talk to the principal and push him to agree, so you can become a better teacher than before." Haruki responded eagerly, "Yes, I want to be a better teacher than before." Just then, the bell rang, and Manu told him, "You should go now. You have a class. Hurry so you're not late." Haruki replied, "All right," and ran off with excitement. Meanwhile, other teachers approached Manu and questioned, "How can you talk to him like that? The principal is angry because of the power he holds." They asked Manu, "Aren't you afraid of him?" Manu replied confidently, "No, why should I be afraid? I know he has power, but I actually want to control him." Later, Haruki attended Manu's class, where Manu announced to the students, "Today, Haruki will be joining us." The students shifted uneasily, unsure about having him in their class. Haruki tried to reassure them, saying, "Bear with me, I'm still a new student." Manu then began the class by instructing, "I want you all to submit last week's homework." Suddenly, Nudo spoke up and told the teacher that Mangini hadn't done his homework, which infuriated Mangini. He snapped, "Why would you say that?" Manu intervened calmly. "It doesn't matter. He'll complete it here after school." Mangini felt a sting from both his teachers' and classmates' remarks. In the row behind them, another student, Higita, muttered to himself that they should just be honest about the homework. He raised his hand and confessed to the teacher that he had done the homework, but forgot to bring it. The teacher replied, "Fine, go get it. Your house is only 15 minutes away from here." Feeling frustrated, Higita left the classroom, thinking he now appeared like a liar, even though he hadn't done the homework either. Manu continued with a new lesson, explaining how yokai individuals in the present day attempt to live normally among humans. Haruki observed Manu's strict teaching style, noting that Manu wasn't the type to joke around. He thought to himself that students would now have to be more responsible for their work. In his mind, he pictured himself pleading with one of the students, imagining the entire school watching. As Manu explained that each yokai transforms into something specific and has unique abilities, Haruki scribbled in his notes and wondered aloud, "I wonder what Sano would transform into. He'd look funny if he turned into a small student like this." Sano, sensing Haruki's stare, turned around and smacked him on the head with a pen. Sano grumbled, "I don't like people standing behind me like that." Manu continued teaching, unperturbed. Haruki raised his hand and asked, "Why are some types of yokai hard to deal with?" Manu replied, "Because they can't control their emotions or their anger, which leads to major problems." Manu continued, "For example, I regain my strength when I drink alcohol, and I become very strong. Do you want to see that?" The students quickly gathered and protested. "No, we don't want that. What happened last year was enough." Suddenly, Haruki spoke up. "I want to see it." The students turned and glared at him angrily, warning, "Be quiet. You don't know anything. Don't say you want to see, or it could cost you your life." At that moment, Manu opened the bottle and took a drink, declaring, "Now I'll show you what my power looks like." All the students were terrified. Manu then struck the board. Haruki and the students stood frozen in fear as Manu displayed his strength. He then said, "Do you see now, troublemakers, how powerful I've become?" Meanwhile, Higita was frantically searching for his printed homework sheet, but couldn't find it. Muttering to himself, he said, "I need to find time to finish it now," as he struggled with his internal conflict. In the classroom, Manu continued drinking. Sano turned to Haruki and explained, "Manu only knows how to use his power or yokai ability when he's drunk. Last year he broke half the school before sobering up at the end of the day." Nudo sighed. "I knew this was going to happen the moment he walked in." During the chaos, Nudo said, "I should go get another teacher." Manu suddenly shouted, "Shut up!" and hit Nudo on the head with a cucumber, saying, "We're in the middle of a class." When Nudo tried to run, Manu chased him to the door, asking, "Where do you think you're going? We're not done with class. Do you want to leave?" Playing with an orange, he suddenly squeezed it into Nudo's eye, the only one he had. Nudo cried out in pain and collapsed, while his friends gathered around him, wondering, "Why is he doing this? This feels like elementary school nonsense." Mangini, watching this, felt a secret satisfaction seeing Nudo in pain since Nudo had accused him earlier. Meanwhile, Manu turned back to Haruki and demanded, "You too! Show us what you've got." Haruki, bewildered, responded, "Show you what? Do you want to know how much I earn?" Manu grabbed Haruki's shirt angrily and said, "Do you think I'm stupid? I'm telling you, show us the power you have." Just then, Sano approached from behind and struck Manu, pushing him away from Haruki. Sano turned to Haruki and urged, "You have to exorcise the evil spirit from him." Haruki, confused, asked, "How am I supposed to do that?" Sano replied, "You have the power, and you can do it." Haruki, still uncertain, said, "Really? I have all that?" He began to recall the moment when he opened the door. Sano pressed, "You still don't know?" Haruki answered, "No, I didn't. I was just selling ordinary things and living my life." Sano responded firmly, "Well, try it and exorcise the demon inside him, because if this keeps going, he'll kill us all." As Haruki stepped forward, the tension in the room intensified. After Manu got up from the ground, Haruki faced him and declared, "Get ready, Manu. I'm going to do this for Nudo and Kasam, the ones you hit." Suddenly, Mr. Hatanka burst into the classroom and demanded, "What's with all the noise?" He then glanced out the window and saw Haruki outside, standing amidst broken glass. Manu, however, was fixated on Haruki and moved towards him, attempting to throw him off the building. Haruki looked down, realizing the height, and thought, "I don't have any power. What should I do now?" Sano then leaned over and whispered, "Do you know that if you exorcise the evil spirit from Manu Zakashi, he'll throw off the pants under his school uniform?" Haruki, visualizing the scene, decided he needed to act. His power finally manifested, and he successfully exorcised the evil spirit possessing Manu. Suddenly, rain began to fall over them, as if cleansing the air. The principal, watching from a distance, remarked with satisfaction, "This is quite beautiful." Just then, Higita burst in and proudly declared, "I told you I finished the homework," only to find everyone gathered around. Sano turned to Haruki and commented, "I didn't expect your power to cleanse the entire school." Haruki, equally surprised, responded, "I hope we can keep this a secret between us." Sano asked, "Why?" Haruki explained, "I don't want anyone in the class to be afraid of me. I want to have a good school year without harming anyone." Suddenly, the plant that Haruki had grown splattered mud on his face and angrily declared, "You don't care about us at all. We need water." The plant then bit Haruki's leg, causing him to scream in pain. "Let me finish what I'm trying to say. I have something really important to tell you." Sano couldn't help but laugh at Haruki's situation. While Higita kept pleading with Nudo to hand over the homework, Nudo firmly refused. Higita, desperate, insisted, "This is the last time, I promise," but Nudo wasn't buying it. "You've said last time 100 times before," he pointed out. Determined, Higita tried again. "I'll do anything you want, whatever you ask." Nudo shook his head. "I'm not into that. That's Sano's territory." Still, after some relentless pressure, Nudo finally gave in. "Fine, but this is seriously the last time. I can't keep doing this," he warned. Adding a bit of advice, Nudo said, "You need to shape up before you end up like our teachers." Just then, the two noticed Haruki standing silently behind them like a ghost. Startled, they panicked and took off running. Higita turned back, shouting, "Why do you sneak up on people like it's a horror movie? Muto asked, still catching his breath. "What are you doing here, Haruki?" Haruki calmly replied, "I'm now in charge of monitoring and disciplining students. Think of me as Mr. Hatanka's right-hand man, learning more about you all." At that moment, Sano and his short friend came running in. Muto pointed at them, smirking. "Hey Sano, looks like you've got a new boss to deal with since you're breaking the rules with that yellow hair." Haruki approached Sano, saying, "Hold on, I'm in charge of discipline now." He then started inspecting Sano's hair from every angle. With a quick move, Sano grabbed Haruki by the face, lifted him off the ground, and revealed that his hair was actually black underneath. Sano then casually tossed Haruki aside. Continuing the conversation, Sano asked, "Do I look bad or something?" Haruki, a bit dazed, replied, "No, not at all. It suits you." Just then, Mr. Hatanka stormed in, furious, and demanded, "What nonsense are you spouting?" He added, "You can't be a discipline teacher, Haruki." Feeling embarrassed, Haruki quickly apologized. From a distance, Sakashi approached and asked, "What's going on here?" Haruki, still trying to regain his composure, replied, "Oh, you're early today." Sakashi responded casually, "I was just playing around." Sakashi hadn't slept the night before, and when she arrived at school, she was still wearing pants underneath her school uniform. Haruki rushed towards her and said, "You can't just keep wearing those pants like this." But Sakashi reacted instantly, kicking him in the face as he approached. She declared, "I defeated all the monsters in the game, and you're the last one left." Muto, trying to calm things down, remarked, "You're right, Sakashi, but he's our teacher." Haruki, still determined, said, "I won't let you do that. I'm going to cut those pants off." Just as he was about to move closer, a police officer who happened to be nearby intervened. The officer took Sakashi with him, saying they needed to have a little chat at the station. Meanwhile, Sakashi and Higita were carrying their video games around when Mr. Hatanka saw them. Without hesitation, he confiscated the games, leaving them feeling dejected. At that moment, Manu approached Hatanka, handing him a stack of exam papers and saying, "Here you go. I finished the paperwork." Hatanka, unimpressed, replied, "All the other teachers turned in theirs a week ago." While wandering through the school, Higita and Sakashi overheard the teachers discussing a plan to lock up all of the students' games in a safe for a week after the upcoming exams. Manu warned them, "Be cautious. One student tried to steal them before, but he won't succeed this time." Entering the classroom, Higita and Sakashi informed their classmates of what had happened. Two siblings chimed in, saying, "Hatanka took our games too." The four of them agreed on a plan to retrieve their games that night. Under the cover of darkness, they made their way to the safe where the games were being kept. The school looked eerie at night, heightening the tension. At one point, Higita, feeling uneasy, whispered to his friends that he saw a monster lurking on top of the cabinet. They gathered around cautiously, ready to strike the monster, only to find out that it was Haruki hiding behind the cabinet. He had mistaken them for intruders. Haruki attempted to scare them off, but things didn't go as he planned. Eventually, he agreed to return their games, saying, "All right, I'll give them back to you, but just this once." However, Haruki wasn't about to let them off the hook easily. He had prepared a trap, and the students fell right into it. Just then, Hatanka entered the room and said, "Well done, watchdog. Haruki." Haruki, a bit offended, responded, "Excuse me?" Hatanka continued, "I thought you were just going to let them take their stuff back." Manu chimed in, "We're very cautious." Meanwhile, Sano and Miami were in their room, with Miami studying hard to improve her grades. At the same time, Haruki faced the four students, announcing it was time for their discipline. But suddenly the twins started to regain control over their powers, and the cage that held them could no longer restrain them. In a flash, they broke free and darted off in different directions. Manu shouted, "Let's catch them!" And everyone started running to either chase or escape. The students hid behind a large wooden cabinet, believing they were safe. But Manu unexpectedly appeared from the other side, smashing through the cabinet and approaching them, taunting, "Did you really think you could get away from me?" One of the twins used their lightning power against Manu, but the electricity veered off and hit Haruki instead. Engulfed in flames, Haruki sprinted toward the fire alarm, desperately trying to put himself out. The other twin, realizing the mistake, quickly used their wind powers to blow out the flames. It finally dawned on everyone that the students' goal had been to retrieve their confiscated games, while the teachers were mistakenly convinced that they were trying to steal exam questions. Hatanka, now calmer, asked the students, "Why didn't you just ask for the games? I would have given them to you." Haruki, still catching his breath, remarked, "At least the firefighters haven't shown up yet." Hatanka corrected him. "When the alarm goes off, they're called automatically." As he turned to glance out the window, he spotted the firefighters arriving below. Panic set in, and everyone scrambled to find a hiding place. As Sano and Yuto wandered through the hall, they spotted the group frantically hiding, and couldn't resist shouting to the firefighters, "Hey, the ones who triggered the alarm are right here." And once again, chaos ensued, with everyone taking off in a mad dash. The students were thrilled to learn that their teacher, Haruki, would be featured in an interview on a TV channel. With a hint of shyness, Haruki explained that he'd been invited for a personal interview because he was the first human teacher at Yoka school. Sakashi eagerly asked about the channel, and Haruki mentioned it was for a program called biography. However, some students had their doubts. They teased that he might not be ready, warning him that the interview might not go as smoothly as he hoped. Sano bluntly added that Haruki would probably embarrass himself, suggesting he had little interest outside of school uniforms and labeling him a coward who might even lose his job over it. Haruki took Sano's words to heart and began questioning whether he should go through with it. But seeing his uncertainty, the other students quickly rallied around him, offering their support and encouragement. Their enthusiasm soon lifted Haruki's spirits, and he started feeling genuinely excited about the opportunity. Not long after, their other teacher, Hatanka, popped in to remind Haruki to avoid any new damage to the walls during class. Shortly afterward, Agiha, the show's director, arrived, introducing herself, her assistant, and the rest of the crew. Haruki felt a bit intimidated by her assistant, who was impressively large. Agiha outlined the day's plan, explaining that after the interview, they would explore the school's various activities. Haruki, feeling more confident, agreed eagerly. The students, excited by the idea of being on TV, prepared themselves with enthusiasm, hopeful that they too might make it into the footage, when Haruki began his lesson. As Haruki opened his book, he realized, to his alarm, that he had accidentally grabbed his personal book about school uniforms instead of the class textbook. Panicking, he decided to slip out unnoticed, making a small hole in the wall to discreetly request the correct book from the next classroom. Teacher Hatanka noticed his unusual borrowing, raising a questioning eyebrow. After the first segment of filming concluded, it was clear it hadn't gone as smoothly as planned. Agiha then suggested they move to the second segment. Haruki agreed and invited Hatanka to join, as this part involved practicing scare tactics in public places. Hatanka instructed the students to focus on instilling fear and panic, urging them to be as frightening as possible. Haruki eagerly promised to give it his all, but Hatanka quickly clarified that Haruki wasn't meant to scare anyone. He was only there to observe. Agiha was thoroughly impressed, noting she'd never seen a teacher quite like Haruki, which she felt would add a distinctive angle to her show. Haruki, still slightly embarrassed, asked Hatanka how they would reach the city, given the distance. He suggested traveling by sea, but Hatanka pointed out that the trip would take about 10 hours. Instead, he explained that the school principal had used his magic to create a room that, once entered, would instantly transport them to the city. Frustrated, Haruki wondered aloud why he hadn't known about this room earlier. Hatanka replied with a grin, saying it was probably because Haruki would have tried to escape on his first day. Haruki conceded, admitting he likely would have, and then asked the crew to edit this moment out. Agiha laughed, reassuring him that anything unnecessary would be cut. Hatanka then announced to the students that today would be a practical training day, but with one specific rule. No one was allowed to practice their scare tactics on Haruki. He asked if anyone knew the reason, and one of the shorter students quickly quipped, because he doesn't have any friends. Offended, Haruki shot back in denial, only for another student, Higeta, to chime in, calling him foolish. Sakashi added that people couldn't even stand looking at him, while Sano speculated that Haruki's bad luck might be contagious. Haruki protested, hurt by their teasing, until Otaga finally provided the correct answer, saying, because he doesn't have anyone to warn him about what's going to happen to him. Hatanka praised Otaga, emphasizing the importance of looking out for one another. He then instructed everyone to avoid scaring children, the elderly, pregnant women, or anyone with health issues. Selecting Otaga and Nudo as the first pair to start, Hatanka encouraged them, though they appeared a bit nervous. Trying to boost their spirits, Haruki attempted a scare demonstration, but it only made them more uneasy, and they quickly asked him to stop. Moving on, Nudo and Otaga proceeded to practice on two boys, successfully scaring them away. Pleased with Nudo and Otaga's successful scare attempt, Hatanka called for the next pair, Mangini and Higeta. However, when they attempted to frighten an elderly woman, they got more than they bargained for. The woman, far braver than they expected, threw salt into Higeta's eyes, claiming to be a spirit banisher, and chased them off with weapons, sending the two students fleeing. When they returned to Hatanka, they sheepishly admitted they had left her tied to a tree in their panic. Trying to console Mangini, Nudo encouraged him not to be discouraged, assuring him that he'd succeed next time. Mangini, still irritated, told Nudo to mind his own business. Next, Exami and the short student tried their luck at scare training but were also unsuccessful. Hatanka then announced that it was Sano's turn and instructed him to take Haruki along. Haruki eagerly accepted, thrilled at the chance, while Sano protested, questioning why Haruki had to tag along. Hatanka replied mysteriously, saying Haruki would be there, just in case. As they set off, Haruki asked Sano why he never used yokai magic. Sano admitted that he struggled to control it, needing a genuine intent to activate it. He recalled a middle school incident where his powers had spiraled out of control. Haruki, encouraged, promised to support him, and even offered his energy to boost Sano's magic if necessary. Sano, unimpressed, suggested Haruki first work on managing his own energy before helping others. During their exercise, Sano spotted a man walking his dog and cut the leash, sending the dog racing after Haruki. Haruki fled, only to trip and crash into a bike, where the dog bit him and wouldn't let go. As Haruki stumbled near a woman, his disheveled appearance frightened her, and she screamed. Hatanka arrived to check on Haruki, asking if he was alright. Covered in bruises, Haruki dryly suggested that if Hatanka thought he looked fine, he might need new glasses. Sano proudly claimed he'd completed the scare training, but Haruki snapped, "I'm the one who scared people, not you." Hatanka then asked Sano to scare people without causing harm. Sano responded by magically stripping the students in the hallway of their clothes to frighten them, insisting no one was hurt. Outraged, the students shouted that he had indeed hurt their pride and dignity. Agiha then approached Haruki, asking if they could begin filming his daily routine. Haruki requested that any unusable footage be removed. Meanwhile, the students secretly plotted to sabotage his image. As Haruki spoke about his typical day, the students interrupted in costume, dressed like bandits, and bombarding him with absurd questions that left him flustered and embarrassed. Frustrated, Haruki tried to correct their behavior, saying it was inappropriate. Sano urged him to be firmer, advising him to stop being so polite with unruly students. Taking Sano's advice, Haruki, in a stern tone, warned that if they didn't obey, they'd face a hell of their own making. Shocked by his newfound firmness, the students quickly apologized. Agiha, impressed, remarked that Haruki's words had miraculously tamed the troublesome students. Just then, the short student interrupted to tell Haruki that one of the animals he cared for had gone missing. Worried, Haruki asked where it might have gone, but before anyone could answer, he spotted the missing animal falling from a high ledge in the schoolyard. Without hesitation, he leaped after it, risking his life. The students, along with Agiha's assistant, rushed to help, managing to save both Haruki and the animal, narrowly avoiding disaster. Grateful for the assistant's help, the students expressed their thanks, realizing the weight of the day's events. Sano, still shaken by the close call, turned to Haruki and muttered, "You're going to be the death of me." Haruki, with a small smile, simply replied, "Thank you." The following day, Haruki eagerly watched his interview on the program and asked the students for their opinions. To his surprise, their reactions were less enthusiastic than he'd hoped. Nevertheless, he confidently shared that the reviews of the episode had been very positive. Just then, his phone rang, and he saw it was his mother calling. "Hello, Mom. It's been a while since we last talked," he greeted her warmly. With a knowing tone, his mother replied, "I see now why you needed those protective charms for working at yoga school. But in return, I have a request for you." Curious, Haruki assured her he'd do anything she asked, and she asked if he could come home for a festival at the end of the week. Overhearing his conversation, the students quickly started whispering and planning ways to join Haruki for the festival. Hiroaki went to his mother's house as she had requested. On his way there, his students caught up to him, and Sano informed him that they were en route. Hiroaki quickly urged them to keep his identity and family connections a secret. Sano agreed, suggesting that they visit some tourist attractions first to buy him some time, but warned Hiroaki to steer clear of these spots to avoid being seen. Hiroaki thanked Sano and teased him, recalling how Sano used to reprimand him constantly. When Hiroaki joked around further, Sano playfully threatened to come over and skin his face if he didn't take it back. Hiroaki clarified that he was only kidding. When the students arrived at the train station, Hijita urged Sano to hurry, but they noticed two young men harassing Zakashi, insisting she go with them. Zakashi rejected their advances, telling them to leave her alone. She called out to Hijita for help, but he laughed, joking that she was already in trouble with the boys. Frustrated, Zakashi demanded he stop joking and intervene. Sano instructed Hijita to handle the situation. Just then, another young man appeared, resembling Hiroaki, and stepped in to defend Zakashi. He even teased the two men, telling them to find someone else to bother. The students were stunned by the uncanny resemblance, wondering if he was their teacher. A shorter student decided to test him by attacking, convinced this wasn't Hiroaki due to his casual attire. The doppelganger fell, confused, asking what was happening. Just then, Hiroaki arrived, running towards Sano and hugging him, apologizing for their previous banter. He recognized the look-alike as his brother, Kamen, who was equally surprised to see Hiroaki with students in tow. They all piled into a car to head home. Sano commented that Hiroaki had never mentioned having a twin. Hiroaki then introduced Kamen as his brother. The short student questioned Kamen's stare, but Zakashi scolded him, reminding him he had just hit Kamen. Hiroaki assured everyone his mother was aware of the visit, and that they needn't worry, as he had already prepared the house for them. As they approached the house, a man rushed out excitedly, exclaiming at Hiroaki's return. Hiroaki playfully nudged him, joking that he was a ghost they shouldn't fear. A young girl also emerged, noticing Hiroaki's students. Hiroaki asked her for a drink, adding that he hadn't revealed to his students that his home was a shrine, and asked her to keep it a secret. The girl welcomed everyone inside. Sano pointed out that they were leaving someone lying on the ground, but the girl reassured them that he was just a ghost who had been with them for a long time. Inside, Hiroaki's mother offered drinks and expressed her happiness at seeing Hiroaki with people beyond his family. The short student, curious, asked her what Hiroaki had been like growing up. She shared a funny memory of his first steps when he grabbed some women's beach clothes that had blown over and began toddling toward them to return them. Hijita found the story amusing, surprised by how funny the memory was. As Hiroaki's father attempted to join them, his mother playfully blocked his way, turning to ask the students about Hiroaki's behavior and whether he was good with them. The students shared lighthearted stories from their interactions, reassuring her that they enjoyed their time together. Just then, Kamen entered, mentioning a program he was watching to divert his mother's attention. He then surprised everyone by asking the students to leave, suggesting that they didn't belong in Hiroaki's world. Embarrassed, Hiroaki confronted Kamen, protesting his treatment of his friends. Kamen firmly closed the door, pulling Hiroaki aside. Sano mentioned he had bought a gift for Kamen and wanted to give it to him. Overhearing, Hiroaki reopened the door, calling Kamen back. But as soon as he stepped out, Sano shut the door, determined to speak with Kamen himself. Hiroaki voiced his frustration, explaining that Kamen had no reason to be so distant and overprotective. Kamen, defensive, explained that he was just worried for Hiroaki and thought it best if he kept his distance from the school and its crowd. In a twist, Hijita entered through the door, muddy from head to toe, startling Kamen so much that he fainted. They hurried to bring him inside, where Hiroaki's mother apologized for Kamen's behavior, explaining that he had always been protective of Hiroaki. Hiroaki remembered how, as children, Kamen would go to great lengths to protect him, keeping people away if he sensed any threat. The next day, Hiroaki's spirits seemed low. His mother asked the students to help set up for the upcoming festival, where they arrived to find rows of stalls. Hiroaki pointed out some shooting games, but noted the prizes didn't look worth the effort. Despite this, he joined in, taking aim and hitting a few targets. The short student jokingly asked Sano for creative ideas to win the games, and Sano suggested using Hiroaki as their new target. Hijita reassured Hiroaki, saying he'd only throw mud at him so he wouldn't feel a thing. Zakashi, aiming her shot playfully at Hiroaki, called out for him to be cautious, though her warning came a bit too late. Hiroaki, shaking his head, reminded them that they were surrounded by regular people and that it was hardly the place for real weapons, no matter how lively the festival was. Meanwhile, Kamen sat with Hiroaki and Sano, offering to order some food. When Sano requested several items, Kamen looked at him in disbelief, surprised by his appetite. Kamen sighed, joking that if he had Hiroaki's ability to repel spirits, he would have driven them all away by now. Curious, Sano asked why Kamen didn't share this power with his brother. Kamen explained that Hiroaki's gift was inherited, though not passed down to all family members, and that it had weakened over generations. Sano pondered how none of his friends had experienced anything unusual at the festival, then inquired further about Hiroaki's abilities. Kamen shared that Hiroaki's power was exceptional, and its true potential had emerged due to a past incident. Their father had accidentally opened a door containing a yokai, a spirit that sought to capture souls. Cornered by the spirit, Kamen had been moments from danger when Hiroaki, sensing trouble, arrived and unknowingly unleashed his latent power to dispel the yokai, saving his brother. That day, Kamen had been astonished by Hiroaki's strength. He explained to Sano that Hiroaki now relied on a blue bead to help regulate his powers, as they were immense but difficult to control. Despite his brother's potential, Kamen remained protective, wanting Hiroaki to stay away from the school and avoid potential threats. Sano reassured Kamen that he would protect Hiroaki, adding that while Hiroaki's powers were formidable, they weren't always useful against every spirit they faced. He promised to handle anything that might arise and to keep Hiroaki safe. Kamen, feeling comforted, agreed to trust Sano, but insisted that Hiroaki be trusted first and encouraged in his role as a teacher. Overhearing this, Hiroaki felt touched by their conversation and rushed to hug Sano, tackling him into a nearby play pool. Overcome with emotion, Hiroaki vowed to work hard to become a great teacher. Sano, playfully scolding him, held him in the pool and splashed him with water, giving him a light zap as they laughed. Later, they headed to the train station, where Hiroaki's mother bid farewell to her son and his friends. Before they boarded, Kamen approached Sano, asking him to take good care of Hiroaki. As the group was called to board, they hurried onto the train. Kamen chased after them, trying to shout something important, but the doors closed just before he could reach them, leaving his message unheard. Hiroaki, however, sensed Kamen's well wishes, feeling overjoyed as the train pulled away. Little did they know, Kamen had been trying to warn them that they were heading in the wrong direction, away from their city.